Before the first moment of time began, before the stars were born or space had shape, God already was. No ticking clock, no cosmic explosion, no spark. Just pure, unshakable, eternal being. But here's the shock. God doesn't have a beginning, and yet everything you've ever known does. Your heartbeat follows time. Your thoughts are measured in seconds. Your life moves forward because something started it. So how can something or someone exist outside time without ever being created? If God created time itself, who created God? And if he has no origin, how do we even begin to comprehend him? Is it possible that our logic is too small, our science too narrow, and our imagination too tethered to time, to grasp the one who formed it all? Could it be that the origin of God is not a puzzle to solve, but a doorway into a reality far greater than we dare to dream? In this video, you'll discover truths that science whispers about but cannot prove. Mysteries that have echoed through the halls of philosophy, theology, and the deepest parts of your own soul. You'll understand why asking, "Where did God come from?" may be the wrong question, and what eternal love was doing before the universe even blinked into existence. And yes, by the end, you'll see what that means for your purpose, your worth, and the divine blueprint written over your life before your first breath. Comment 777 if your spirit senses there's more to this life than ticking clocks. Don't forget to like this message, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to remember. You were not made by accident. You were chosen before the foundation of the world. This is not just theology. This is eternal reality. Let's begin. God beyond time. What does that even mean? Time is all we've ever known. We live by clocks, calendars, birth dates, and deadlines. We celebrate beginnings, mourn endings, and measure every moment in between. Yet before the first second ticked, before time itself began to breathe, God already was. He is the eternal God, the uncaused cause, the one who does not wait, who does not age, who does not change with the passing of seasons. But what does it truly mean to exist beyond time? Imagine a painter who steps away from his canvas, not confined to the scene he's painting, but shaping it freely, seeing the beginning and end all at once. Time to God is not a linear path, but a masterpiece he designed. The Bible tells us in Psalm 92, "Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God." He didn't begin when time began. Time began because he spoke. This truth defies our logic. In our minds, everything has a start. Even stars are born, mountains rise, and empires fall. But God is not a product of time. He is the author of it. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity showed us that time isn't fixed. It bends, stretches, responds to motion and gravity. Time is part of creation's fabric. And if time can be created, then its creator must stand outside of it. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what existed before the stars? What was there before space? The answer isn't a void, it's a presence, a reality that fills all realities. A God who simply is, the I am who answered Moses from the burning bush in Exodus 3:14. Not I was or I will be, but I am, forever now, always present, always complete. Let this sink in. While you are caught between yesterday and tomorrow, God sees all your days at once. Your joys, your wounds, your prayers whispered in the dark, they are not buried in the past or waiting in the future. To him, they are alive in this eternal moment. He exists in the fullness of now, and that means he is fully with you, right now. Think of a child learning to read a storybook. She turns one page at a time, line by line. But the author, He holds the entire story in his heart before the first page is even printed. That's how God sees time. He's not waiting to see what happens next in your life. He already knows it. He already holds it. And he's been gently guiding you, even when you didn't know it. This changes everything. If God is outside time, then he's not rushing. He's not late. He's not surprised by your mistakes or panicked about your future. He is steady. He is sovereign. He is secure. While you stress over tomorrow, he's already there, preparing it, shaping it, filling it with purpose. When you look back in regret or forward in fear, remember, you are safe in the hands of the one who sees all of you at once and still chooses you. Comment 777, if this truth brings peace to your anxious heart. Let it remind you that you are not behind schedule in God's eyes. You are not too late. You are exactly where the Eternal One has placed you, for a time such as this. But let's go deeper. Because if God exists beyond time, what does that mean about how he came to be? The uncreated creator. Can logic support that? Everything we see has a cause. Your home was built, your phone was designed, your body was born. The universe itself, planets, light, atoms, had a beginning. Scientists tell us about the Big Bang, a moment when all things started. But if the universe had a beginning, what started the beginning? Many ask, if everything has a cause, doesn't God need one too? But here lies the mystery. God is not part of the chain. He is the foundation beneath it. The philosopher Thomas Aquinas called him the unmoved mover, the one who starts motion but is not moved himself. Every effect has a cause, every chain has a link, but you cannot go backward forever. Eventually, you must reach a point that simply is, a necessary being, a cause that was not caused. That is God. Think of it like a row of dominoes. You can trace them backward, knock by knock, but you must arrive at someone who pushed the first one. Something or someone that didn't need to be pushed. That first mover, that first touch of existence, is the eternal God. Some people try to replace God with the universe itself. They say perhaps the universe always existed, or perhaps it created itself. But pause, how can something create itself before it exists? That's a contradiction. Creation demands a cause. And not just any cause, but one outside the system, one that is timeless, spaceless, powerful, and intentional. Now imagine this. A builder exists before his house. An artist exists before her canvas. So too, the Creator exists before creation. He is not bound by the rules he wrote. He is not explained by what he made. He is the explanation for why anything exists at all. A mistake many make is shrinking God down to fit inside their questions. We try to define him with our science, our time, our categories, but if we could fully define him, he would not be God. He would be manageable, predictable, small, and that is not the God who breathed galaxies into place. Here's the healing truth. God is uncreated, and that's why he is worthy of your trust. He doesn't depend on anything. He doesn't need approval. He doesn't run out of energy or love or grace. He simply is. And because he is self-existent, you can rest. Your source is stable. Your foundation is unshakable. Your Creator is not becoming. He is being. If your heart has ever asked, where does God come from? You're not alone. It's a question as old as time. But maybe the question itself is a clue. Maybe the ache to know his origin is actually a longing to know your own. If we came from the one who has no beginning, then maybe we were made to step beyond the fear of endings. Maybe we were made to live with eternity inside us. Comment, God is my beginning, if this truth is helping you see your life from a higher place. And now, having understood that God is beyond time and uncreated, we're ready to enter an even deeper question, one that speaks not just of existence, but of relationship. If God existed before everything, was he alone? Did he long for something more? Or was he already complete in a way we can barely imagine? Let's find out. Trinity before creation. Was God lonely? Before the dawn of matter, before time ticked its first second, before the angels were formed to sing his glory, God existed in perfect fullness. But what kind of fullness was it? Was he silent in an eternal void? Was he waiting, bored, for something to do, someone to love? The answer is profound and healing. God was never alone. Within himself, from everlasting to everlasting, God is Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, three persons, one essence, eternally united in love. This isn't a theological puzzle. It's a window into divine joy, a glimpse of the eternal dance of relationship that existed long before you or I ever breathed. God is love. Not simply that he has love or gives love, but that he is love itself. And love cannot exist in solitude. Love must move, must pour, must give. That is why the Trinity matters so deeply. Before you were formed, before galaxies sang into space, the Father loved the Son rejoiced in the Spirit, and the Spirit glorified the Father. They delighted in one another, endlessly complete. Think of it like a family filled with laughter, warmth, and celebration, not because they need anything, but because they have everything in each other. That's what existed before creation, perfect communion. When Jesus prayed in John 17:24, he spoke a breathtaking truth. Father, you loved me before the foundation of the world. This is not poetry, it is history. It is the eternal reality that before a single atom swirled, there was love, pulsing, alive, endless. So no, God was not lonely. He did not create out of lack. He did not mold mankind because he was incomplete. He created because love, by nature, overflows. That's what real love does. It gives not to fill a hole, but to share a treasure. The universe was not a desperate cry into emptiness. It was the overflow of divine delight, a gift flowing from an eternal relationship. Have you ever met someone who was so full of joy, they just had to share it? A parent who makes room at the table, a musician who opens their home to let others hear the melody, a friend who invites you into their celebration. That's a small echo of what creation is, a sacred invitation into the joy of God. And here's the beauty. You were not made to observe from a distance. You were not formed to be a servant standing outside the feast. You were designed to be part of it, to sit at the table of eternity. You were created from love, by love, for love. This breaks the lie that you're only valuable if you're productive, successful, or popular. Long before you ever did anything, you were wanted, not tolerated. Chosen. You are not filling a vacancy in God's heart. You are an expression of his eternal purpose. Let that truth breathe life into your soul. You are not a cosmic accident. You are not here to earn approval. You were desired before time, imagined in the mind of perfect love, and spoken into being with joy. Comment, I was chosen in love, if this truth awakens something deep inside. Let your spirit agree with what heaven already declared, that you are the beloved of a relational God who was never alone, never lacking, and never uncertain. And yet, if God was already complete, why create anything at all? If he needed nothing, what moved him to speak, "Let there be light"? Could it be that even beyond love, there was a greater design unfolding from the depths of eternity? Creation from eternity. Not a need, but a gift. The act of creation was not a solution to a problem. It wasn't an escape from boredom or a fix for loneliness. Creation was the overflow of eternal joy, the radiant echo of God's glory. Everything you see, sunsets, oceans, stars, even the breath in your lungs, is a gift, not a necessity. Psalm 19:1 declares, The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. The universe is not meaningless noise. It is a cosmic symphony, composed by a heart bursting with generosity. Imagine a composer who has already heard the perfect melody in his soul. He doesn't write music because he needs to. He writes because the music is too beautiful not to be shared. Or think of an artist who sees colors no one has seen before. She paints not to impress, but to invite the world into her joy. That's what God did. That's what creation is. God, who existed beyond time and space, chose to create both, not for himself, but for you. He carved time so you could have a beginning. He stretched space so you could move, grow, and become. He shaped a world not because he lacked something, but because he longed to give something, a place where you could walk with him, know him, love him freely. Genesis 1:27 whispers a mystery few dare to believe. So God created man in his own image. That means you are not a product of random chance. You are a reflection of the eternal. You bear the mark of the divine. In your ability to love, to create, to choose, to dream, you echo the one who made you. But this leads to a question that troubles many hearts. If God knew we would fall, if he saw the pain and rebellion that would come, why still create? The answer is not logic. It is love. Real love is never forced. It always risks pain because it values freedom. God created you knowing you could walk away. And still, he said yes. Still, he gave you breath. Still, he wrote beauty into your being and destiny into your days. Have you ever loved someone knowing they might hurt you? Have you ever given knowing you might not receive anything in return? That's a glimpse, just a shadow, of what God did on the edge of eternity. He saw the cross before he saw Eden, and still, he chose to create. This is the kind of love that heals. It tells you that your existence is not a mistake, that your story is not meaningless, that your suffering is not unseen. It tells you that before you ever failed, grace had already been written into your design. Comment, I am not an accident, if this truth resonates in your heart. Let your soul agree with heaven again, that your life was crafted, not just allowed. You are part of a divine design, a sacred story, a love too vast to measure. And now, knowing that God created not from lack, but from love, there remains one more mystery to unfold. If before creation there was already love, was there also a plan, a destiny, a redemption prepared even before the first sin was ever committed? Could it be that mercy was waiting at the beginning before justice was ever required? Let's keep walking into that truth. Redemption before sin, the Lamb slain before time, long before Eden bloomed, long before the first lie slithered through a garden, long before humanity reached for what it could not hold. Redemption was already written. The cross was not a reaction. It was not a backup plan. It was always the plan. Revelation 13:8 speaks of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Before sin entered the story, grace was already present in the author's pen. This truth stirs the deepest places of the soul. God saw the fall and still formed us. He knew the betrayal and still breathed life into Adam's lungs. He saw the crown of thorns and still painted the stars. This is not the love of a distant creator. This is the eternal love of a Savior who chose you before you ever chose him. Imagine a parent preparing a home for a child not yet born, knowing that one day that child might reject their love, and still they prepare. They decorate. They wait. That's a faint image of what God did in eternity. He saw the rebellion, the brokenness, the cross, and he still said, "Let there be light." He still whispered your name into the fabric of time. In Ephesians 1:4 we read, "He chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before him in love. Before you sinned, you were seen. Before you wandered, you were wanted. Before you wept, mercy had already begun weeping for you. This changes how we see suffering, when life feels shattered, when shame clings like fog, when questions about your worth echo in the dark. Remember this: the Lamb was already slain. Redemption is older than your regrets. Grace is more ancient than your failures. The blood that saves you wasn't shed in a moment of pity. It was poured from a heart that planned your healing before time began. Let this truth sink in. You are not chasing forgiveness. You're walking in the footsteps of a God who prepared it for you before the stars were born. Comment, grace was always the plan, if this truth lifts the weight from your shoulders. Let your soul remember, salvation was not earned. It was woven into eternity, long before you took your first breath. And still, some ask, what if we've misunderstood everything? What if God isn't who the scriptures say he is? What if all of this, the cross, the creator, the cosmic plan, is just a story we made up to feel safe? Let's step into that tension. Alternative theories, and why they fall short. Throughout history, the human heart has struggled with the idea of a God without beginning, a creator who was never created. It feels too vast, too untouchable. And so, in our hunger to understand, we've invented other stories. Some suggest that God is simply the universe itself, a cosmic energy, impersonal, shapeless, timeless. But if God is just a force, how do we explain his voice? His compassion? His choice to enter time through Christ and speak our names with tenderness? Love cannot come from an energy field. Love must be personal. Love must choose. The God of Scripture is not indifferent. He grieves, he rejoices, he calls, he cares. Others say God is an alien intelligence, an advanced being from another dimension. But even that being would need a beginning. And if something created it, then that creator must be greater. And we're back at the same question. Who lit the first flame? Who stands at the start of all beginnings? Then there are theories of endless gods, each birthing the next in a cycle of eternity. But infinite regression doesn't explain anything. It only delays the answer. It's like asking who made your parents' parents' parents. Eventually you reach a point where someone had to start the story. Here's the truth. If God had a beginning, then he is not God, because whatever made him would be greater. And that would be God. The Bible doesn't give us a flowchart or a theory. It simply begins, in the beginning God. That's not science. That's sovereignty. That's not a guess. That's glory. So why do these theories persist? Because we are uncomfortable with mystery. We want a God we can understand, a theology we can master, a faith we can package. But a God small enough to be understood is not big enough to be worshipped. And deep down, even skeptics feel this, that there's more, that the ache for meaning is not a flaw, but a fingerprint. Romans 1:20 tells us that since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. That means you can look at the ocean's rhythm, the DNA inside your cells, the galaxies spinning in silent harmony, and hear the echo of a voice older than matter. Comment, I see his fingerprints. If you've ever looked at creation and felt the divine whisper, let your wonder become worship. Let your questions become a doorway, not a wall. And so, we arrive at the final and perhaps most personal truth of all. This isn't just about theories or theology. It's about something far more intimate. If God is real and eternal and full of love, then what does that say about you? And the God who knows your name. Before stars had names, God knew yours. Before time began, your story had already been spoken in his heart. Jeremiah 1:5 tells us, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And Ephesians 2:10 reminds us, we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. You are not random. You are not late. You are not invisible. You are the echo of a divine intention, a soul born from eternity into time, crafted with purpose, formed in love. There is something holy about your existence, something sacred about your breath. You are not just passing through this world. You were sent here with meaning, with mission, with majesty in your bones. Have you ever felt the pull of something more? A whisper when the world grows quiet, a longing that success can't satisfy, a grief that beauty alone can't heal. That is the echo of the eternal. That is the voice of the one who formed you, calling you to remember who you are and whose you are. You are made in the image of the God who is love, not just has it. That means love is your source, it is your calling, it is your destiny. And yes, he knew your failures before they happened. He knew the detours, the wounds, the scars you carry. And still, he chose you. Still, he knit you together. Still, he placed eternity in your heart. You are not just part of a plan. You are part of the planner's heart. If your soul has ever wondered, do I matter? Am I known? Let this truth heal you. You were written into the story before the first page turned. Comment, he knows my name, if this truth brings peace to your identity. Let heaven hear your agreement. Let it rise like a prayer, like a song, like a whisper back to the one who whispered you into being. And so now, with all we've uncovered, you're not just learning about God's origin. You're discovering your own, hidden in Him, anchored in eternity, destined for something far greater than this world alone could ever offer. Somewhere deep in your spirit, even before you pressed play, there was already a longing, a quiet ache to remember where you came from, to understand the one who formed you before time began. And now, after walking through eternity's doorway, after glimpsing the mystery of the God who has no origin, yet writes every beginning, perhaps your soul feels something it hasn't felt in a long time. Peace. The kind of peace that doesn't come from having all the answers, but from knowing you are always seen, always known, always loved. You were not made by accident, not a result of random dust and chance, not a forgotten voice in an endless crowd of souls. You were chosen, crafted by the eternal God, the one who shaped the galaxies with a whisper, and still chooses to speak your name with tenderness and truth. This isn't just a story about God's origin, it's about your value, your divine identity, your sacred place in a plan so vast it stretches beyond the reach of time. God, who lives outside of time, who created space and spirit and story, placed you here on purpose. And not just in history, but in His heart. Long before you wondered who He is, He was already writing your name into His eternal rhythm. Long before you fell, He had already prepared redemption. Long before you doubted, He had already spoken the promise. The Alpha and Omega does not dwell in mystery to confuse you, but to invite you into awe, into trust, into relationship. When you feel like life is moving too fast, when pain clouds your purpose, when your heart questions if you matter at all, remember this. God is not watching your life unfold from a distance. He's already ahead of you, already within you, already surrounding every second with eternity's embrace. And even when you cannot trace His hand, you can trust His heart, because that heart has never stopped loving you, never stopped longing for you to know Him, not just as Creator, but as Father, as friend, as the Eternal who whispers, "You are mine." There is healing in knowing you were dreamed of before the stars, that you were not only created, but called, that your scars do not disqualify you. They are invitations for grace to be glorified. that your future is not unknown to God, it is handcrafted by Him. When the world makes you feel small, when doubts scream louder than hope, return to the truth you've heard today. You were born from love, sustained by purpose, and destined for eternity. Every heartbeat of yours echoes the eternal rhythm of the one who never began and never ends. If anything in this message stirred your soul, if it reminded you of who you really are, or who God has always been, I invite you to not keep it to yourself. Let this message echo beyond this moment. Type 777 in the comments to mark this revelation in your journey. Not for me, but for you. To seal it, to remember it, to declare that you belong to the timeless one. Share your thoughts, your prayers, your questions. This space isn't just a channel, it's a community of eternal souls walking through time with holy purpose. And if you felt light breaking through your shadows, if you found something here that helped you breathe deeper or feel seen in the dark, I want you to know your presence matters, truly. I pour my heart into these videos not to grow numbers, but to grow souls. And if you believe in what's being shared here, if you feel like this is the kind of message the world needs more of, I humbly ask you to support in any way you feel led. Whether that's a kind comment, a thumbs up, sharing this with a friend who's searching, or simply subscribing so you don't miss the next heartbeat of heaven that we explore together. And yes, if you feel called to send a little energy to help keep this mission going, know that every bit, no matter how small, means the world to me. It's not about money, it's about momentum. It's about sustaining the light so it keeps reaching those who need it most. Thank you, from the deepest part of my heart, for walking this sacred journey with me, for listening not just with ears, but with soul, for daring to ask the hard questions, and for being open to a love that answers not always with explanations, but with presence. You are not forgotten. You are not unseen. You are a soul born from the mind of the eternal, crafted in the image of the great I Am, and no amount of time or pain or confusion can erase your place in His story. So keep walking, keep wondering, keep worshipping with your questions. Because the God who existed before the beginning is not just the origin of all things, He is your origin, and He is already holding your end. May you live with the peace of eternity pulsing through your present. May you never again forget that your name is written in the heart of the timeless God. And may we meet again in the next video to dive even deeper into the mysteries that heal, awaken, and transform. Until then, grace and light always,